Hey, what is up, guys? It's your boy KCM, What Ifs. Today we are going to be reading the sealed kunai, or what if Naruto had his true potential sealed away. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Come on, Grandpa, let me be a ninja already. Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage, massaged his temples as he looked down at the little blonde boy who had a determined look on his face. He had been visiting the boy in order to give him a monthly allowance and help him shop for groceries as he lived alone. It might be odd that a little boy like this lives alone, instead of with his parents or in an orphanage, but the little boy held within him a massive little deterrent that kept most from wanting to care for him. Naruto Uzumaki held within him the ultimate bijou, the Kyuubi, the same demon that had attacked and nearly annihilated Konoha, the village in which this story takes place. Naruto, I can't let you enter the academy. Naruto's face scrunched up, trying to decipher why. But Grandpa, you told me other kids as young as me are training as ninja. Why can't I? Hiruzen did have to admit to that nugget of truth. Clans in Konoha, such as the Uchiha and the Hyuga, trained their children from around the time they could walk to become shinobi. Kakashi Hatake had graduated from the academy at the age of 5, and even been promoted to Chunin at the age of 6. Same for other prodigious ninja, such as Itachi Uchiha. Hiruzen knew it was somewhat hypocritical of him to deny Naruto the same chance that they received. But the people of Konoha would never accept the demon spawn training in the ninja arts right in front of them. This was more for Naruto's safety. The worst thing to him was that he couldn't even tell Naruto why he couldn't allow him to join. That the irrational fear the village as a whole had of him being the Kyuubi reincarnated wouldn't allow them to see him as just a little boy that wanted to prove himself to them all. Hiruzen patted Naruto's head and looked down at him patronizingly. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. Maybe one day soon I can let you join, but not now. Naruto watched the old man walk towards his door and shut it on his way out. Naruto walked aimlessly around Konoha, trying to ignore the looks that he wasn't getting. He didn't get why Grandpa didn't want him to be a ninja. He knew he would be the best ninja ever. That was all he would settle for, no matter how hard he had to work. There was something he wasn't getting, and trying to think about it made his head hurt. Eventually, by the time he had stopped pondering all of the absurd reasons that he wouldn't be allowed into the academy, he even came up with a strange conspiracy that there was some sort of demigod stuck inside of him. And everybody knew but him. Crazy, right? He found himself atop his favorite place in the village, Hokage Mountain. It's beautiful, isn't it? Naruto whipped around suddenly to see a man with his head and one eye in bandages, and his right arm in a sling, also wrapped up. Naruto couldn't feel any real malicious intent from the man, so he allowed him to come closer. He stopped next to Naruto and looked out at the view from the top of the mountain. Truly, being a ninja to protect this village is something that I've always felt is well worth the sacrifice. Naruto's eyes widened, but then he looked away sadly. Grandpa won't let me be a ninja. I don't know why, though. I mean, I'll work hard and I know I'd be good at it. The man made a noise as if he was thinking of Naruto's words. You would really work hard? You would do whatever you had to in order to become the greatest ninja you could be? Naruto grinned widely at the man. Not just the best ninja I can be, the best ninja ever, Databeo. The man had a small smirk upon his lips. Well then, I think I'd like to take a hand in training the greatest ninja ever. How would you like to be a ninja for me? Naruto's grin could have split his face as he latched onto the man excitedly. Thank you. Thank you? I can really be a ninja? The man held Naruto off of him. Little boy, the first thing a ninja should know is to never show emotion. I can understand your excitement, but when we begin training, I do not want to see that from you. Do you understand? Naruto cowed himself and nodded. I know. I don't even know your name. The man turned and motioned Naruto to follow. You may call me Danzo. Naruto, ages 7. Underground, the sounds of contact were made. The sounds of physical combat were common in this place. Sparring was intense and brutal to condition the ninja to field conditions. An unnamed teen hit the ground hard, groaning as his eyes flicked in and out of consciousness. The blood caking his face was just another sign of the intensity of the session. Standing over him was a blond boy sighing in relief at the conclusion of the spar. "Takeshi, you hit way too hard." The blonde slowly walked away from the room, checking himself over. He scratched at his fists, flaking off the dead skin covered in dried blood. He checked his mouth and sighed before digging into the back of his mouth and pulling out a molar, dropping it on the ground as he walked away. He didn't care too much about it. It wouldn't be the first time he lost teeth down here, and they always grew back. "Thank you, Furball." As the boy clad in black practice clothing entered the hall, he came face to face with the man responsible for training him. "Ah, Danzo Grandpa. Good to see you." Danzo frowned at Naruto's disrespect. "Boy, if you weren't so damn good at what you do, then I'd have you go back through emotional conditioning again." Naruto gave him a cheeky grin. "But that's just it. You know I'm too damn good to waste going to do that crap. And besides, you know I can turn it on the second the mission starts. I can be as blank as everybody else when you say go." Danzo let a ghost of a smile appear on his face. He remembered putting Naruto through the paces to rid himself of his emotions. No matter how bad he had Naruto beaten and conditioned, he would still keep a spark of his old personality. Even after several months of that treatment that had broken everyone else Danzo had trained for decades until that point. Danzo motioned for Naruto to walk with him. "I have a mission for you. Solo this time." Naruto went into business mode upon hearing those words. "What do you require of me, Danzo-sama?" Danzo would never openly admit it, but he did rather like the fact that Naruto could turn his ninja mode on and off at the blink of an eye. It made training a bunch of emotionless tools more bearable if one of them had enough self-awareness to actually speak to him with even a hint of cordiality. They weren't necessarily close. Naruto was well aware of the fact that Danzo saw him as nothing more than a tool, a weapon to be brandished to protect Konoha, but people have shown that they can value objects and tools above many things in this world. Plus, Naruto's childish streak got a kick out of making Danzo twitch. You've got to enjoy the little things. This one is probably going to be suicide for anyone else other than you. Even you will find it rough going, I would say. Naruto nodded as a sign of his hearing the advice. If this even hints at going under, you get yourself out of there, failed mission or not. A shimmer of his eye revealed from Naruto to Danzo that he was affected by those words. Danzo just couldn't tell if it was because he gave the very rare order for him to retreat if necessary, or if it was because he was offended for suggesting that Naruto might fail this mission. Naruto looked up to Danzo, icy blue eyes lacking the solid feeling they were full of just moments ago. "Your orders, Danzo-sama." Danzo smiled. "I think that he might just be the greatest weapon I have ever had." Training Naruto had not been even a chore. When it came time to learn how to fight, how to kill, how to win, Naruto had shown himself a quick study. Danzo relied on Naruto for more of the higher-class missions that he knew many of his other operatives couldn't handle, because the kid seemingly didn't accept anything short than a successful mission. That made him invaluable, and he'll only continue to grow in strength. I would probably rely on him before I thought of backing one of Saratobi's soft elites. Oh, my old friend, how did you let this gem of a shinobi go? Danzo continued his briefing as he and Naruto had arrived at the armory. You will be infiltrating Ta no Kuni. There have been reports of a new hidden village based out of that nation rising to prominence. Naruto quickly changed from simple practice clothes to gear reminiscent of Ambu armor, clicking the chest protection shut. "Hi, Danzo-sama." Danzo continued. You will find the location of this village and, if possible, get inside and keep tabs on what you can see and find. When you believe that you have sufficient information to determine whether or not this village is a threat or not, you are to return to base and debrief. You may leave on your own mark. This will be a long-standing assignment. Naruto packed himself with kunai, shuriken, flash tags, exploding tags, smoke bombs, anything that he might need, and he packed to the brim. Sealing whatever he couldn't carry in a scroll, He didn't know whether he would need to restock on this mission or not. Upon his completion of arming his person, he turned to Danzo and bowed. I will leave as soon as possible, Danzo-sama. You will hear from me upon my return. Danzo nodded. By your leave, Uzumaki. Naruto stood and walked from the armory, ready for his next assignment. Naruto slipped his mask in with his combat gear, as he had replaced it all with simple street clothes as he had to keep up his appearances. Root was the opportunity that Sarutobi never gave him. He knew all he needed to do to prove his worth as a ninja was a chance, and when that chance was given, he took it. 1 year later, border of Hai no Kuni Dan no Kuni. An explosion drew Jiraiya's attention away from returning to Konoha. He had just gotten through going through to no Kuni, looking into rumors of a new hidden village rumored to be called Otogakure. After finding enough to bring back to the Hokage, he made a hasty retreat to the border, and from the sounds of things he wasn't the only one. Jiraiya eventually found himself on the heels of a blur in the darkness. Jiraiya slipped into the shadows of the trees to speed ahead of the fleeing mystery shinobi. However, this was unnecessary as the person in question collapsed and dropped to the forest floor in exhaustion. As Jiraiya walked closer, he saw deep cuts and gashes all over the body of the Ambu, or so his armor had him believing. Jiraiya whistled as he took in the age of the blonde boy on the ground. They're sure starting him younger these days. Jiraiya refrained from moving the mask of the boy, on which he saw a leaf insignia, as Ambu had to keep their identities secret for as long as was feasible to the masses. Jiraiya picked the boy up and made for Konoha, interested in this current situation. Jiraiya had set the boy down in Sarutobi's office and had requested that his Ambu guards leave the room. Sarutobi-sensei, you could have sent me a message that you already had someone in Odo checking things over. I think I might have blown his stealth when I made tracks and left that place. Hiruzen's eyes darkened. I didn't send anyone into Tano Kuni. I expected you to look into it yourself and send word back. Like you are now. This Ambu isn't mine. I would never allow a child this young into their ranks. Never again. Not after Itachi. Jiraiya scratched his white mane. Well, I kind of figured that, but I thought you might have made an exception or something. Sarutobi rose from the desk and walked over to where the masked boy lay. He narrowed his eyes at the kanji he found right by the leaf symbol on the forehead. Danzo? Root again? Jiraiya sighed. I thought you handled him and that group of blank faces. He's still doing this? Jiraiya shrugged. Well, at least he also recognizes Oto as some kind of unknown quantity. Hiruzen reached down and pulled off the mask. What he saw almost gave him a heart attack. In Naruto. Jiraiya ran over, looked down, gaping at the sight. Kami. He looks just like Minato. Wait. Sarutobi, is this Minato's child? Hiruzen settled himself somewhat. Yes, Jiraiya. This is his child. Danzo must have gotten his hands on him. I should have known. When I went to see him, he was becoming progressively more aloof and secretive. I stopped getting reports about him around town completely. I figured he must have just been keeping a low profile, but I never would have guessed. Jiraiya looked angry. Danzo turned Minato's son into a mindless drone. I'm going to... Jiraiya, wait! Jiraiya turned to face his teacher with an angry look. The council wanted him to be trained under Danzo's watch anyway. They'll see him in the right if this gets out. You and I are the only ones that know about this. Jiraiya bared his teeth. He won't tell us anything about Danzo. Even if he had any real reason to tell us anything, Danzo has seals on his ninja that keep them from speaking about Root too freely. I've seen it. Hiruzen nodded. I know. So what if, instead of using him to get to Danzo, we just take him away from that place entirely? Seeing Jiraiya's confusion, he elaborated. Danzo won't move to retrieve him no matter how valuable he knows that Jinchuriki is to his goals. All we need to do is keep him under watch and seal him. Jiraiya nodded in agreement. So what? Memory seal? Chakra seal? What exactly are we sealing? Everything. Jiraiya's eyes widened. Now when you say everything. Hiruzen stood back up. I mean everything. His entire mind and body have been utterly conditioned by Danzo to fight. He would have never been out there if he wasn't at least as strong as one of my Jun, and Danzo wouldn't have allowed it. Seal it all. If we just seal his memory, then he would still be infinitely more powerful than any academy student. Even without the knowledge of all of the techniques. Just with the academy techniques, he would still obliterate any academy student. Jiraiya looked at the unconscious blonde on the floor. I don't like this, Saratobi-sensei. What will you do with him then? Hiruzen picked the boy up and put his mask back on. I will allow him to enroll in the academy. I'm wearing the council down. Soon I can get them to let him attend. Him staying off of their radar has helped considerably. Jiraiya followed Hiruzen down to the depths of the tower to commence with the sealing of the young boy. Root base, Konoha. The sound of a door shutting sounded through Danzo's speakers on his desk. The injured man put his face into his hand and groaned. Uzumaki, damn it. Jiraiya. How was he to know the wandering sage was in Oto as well? From the sound of things, the flamboyant shinobi had placed their forces on high alert upon his own exit, and with Naruto stuck inside that buzzing hive, with everyone searching high and low for anything amiss, the boy had run into quite a bit of trouble when he took to making his own hasty retreat. Danzo's weapon was lost to him now. He knew Saratobi would never allow him to get anywhere near Naruto again. Danzo pulled out a bottle of sake and poured himself some. After tossing the alcohol back, he grimaced slightly, and we move along. 4 years later. A blonde in an orange jumpsuit sat down deep in the forests of Konoha. Man, that was so easy. Why wasn't that the regular graduation exam? The boy unfurled the scroll in his grip and read it. Oh man, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu? Bunshin, my worst technique. He sighed and put on a cocky grin. Right then, let's get started. Hours later. Iruka Umino, Chunin and teacher in Konoha's ninja academy, stood in astonishment. Naruto Uzumaki, the dead last of his class, the failure. He had just witnessed the boy in question call upon an almost endless horde of Kage Bunshin to beat his former teacher's aide Mizuki into a bloody pulp. Naruto stood over the groaning man, smiling at Iruka sheepishly. Whoops. I guess I went a little overboard, huh? Iruka smiled and called Naruto over to him. I've got something for you, Naruto. Close your eyes. Naruto did as he was told and felt his goggles shift on his forehead. Okay, go ahead and open them. Naruto opened his eyes and saw his smiling instructor, Sans Hitaet, holding his goggles. Congratulations, Naruto. You graduate. 6 months later, forests outside of Konoha. Naruto was smashed back by Gaara in his monstrous form. Naruto sailed through branches until he landed against a tree and slumped against it. Naruto grunted in pain as he sat up to look at the insane Suna ninja. Gaara had a maniacal grin on his half-demonic face. You are weak, Uzumaki! You lack power! Sasuke landed on Naruto's branch, looking worse off than Naruto himself was, with strange black markings on the right side of his body. Naruto, get out of here! Get Sakura and run. I'll handle this guy. Naruto went to speak when Sasuke clenched his fists. If I can't win here, then I'll never be strong enough to defeat him. I will have reached my limits. Naruto looked at Sakura, pinned to a tree trunk with Gaara's sand slowly crushing her. Naruto stood up and wiped the blood from his lip. He looked down at Sasuke. Don't worry, Sasuke. I won't lose here. Naruto flipped through hand signs and slapped his palm to the tree branch. A puff of smoke revealed a small orange toad. Hey there, I'm Gamakichi. Got any sweets? Naruto flipped out. I can't believe this crap! What's with you stupid toads? I can never get a useful one. This is really not the time for this. The small toad jumped onto Naruto's head and gave him a raspberry. So you're an amphibian hater, huh? Gaara had had enough of this. All the time spent allowed him to fully turn into his mini Shukaku form. Suna Shuriken. Naruto saw the spinning discs of sand coming his way and cradled Gamakichi with his body, taking the hits. He flew back and hit another branch. Gamakichi looked at him in concern as Gaara cackled. You see, Uzumaki, only when you fight for yourself can you truly be strong. I'll wait for you to realize this and leave your friends here to die so you can escape. Naruto wordlessly placed Gamakichi down and turned to face Gaara. The look in his eyes irked Gaara, who sent another salvo of sand shuriken at Naruto, hitting him dead on and sending him back again. Naruto stood up almost immediately. What is this feeling? I feel stronger. Like that didn't hurt at all. Sasuke looked at Naruto as he saw Naruto's strength returning to him, as a burst of visible blue chakra erupted from Naruto. The blonde's look of confusion and awe at himself turned to a wail of pain as he clutched his head and dropped to the ground screaming. Naruto's mindscape. Moo. The Kyuubi no Yoko was bored. Bored. It had been bored for years. Ever since Naruto's memories and skills had been sealed away, there wasn't any action for it to watch, or even partake in as Naruto was wont to do from time to time. When the boy finally made his return during his month of training with Jiraiya, he was nothing like the Naruto that had earned his respect in his childhood. This Naruto was loud and brash, with no true talents to back it up with. The old Naruto wasn't nearly as loud, and while he had his moments of being a loudmouth, he always had the talent to go with it and the drive to do better. The seal had handicapped him and his thinking for 4 years. The Kyuubi really couldn't even say that the new Naruto had potential. The old one had potential, and he had started achieving it, then it was taken away, and no one can have potential twice in their lifetime. As it pondered how exactly it was going to break out of its rotting prison, many markings appeared on the outside of the Kyuubi's cage. At first it was confused, until it remembered the exact same patterns appearing 4 years ago, right before everything turned to shit. Oh, it's about time. Took you long enough, human. Focusing its chakra into a line, it pushed it out from the bars of the cage slowly so as to not upset the Shiki Fujin. Finally, the chakra made contact with the walls and began to cover the lines, following them straight to the source. As the Kyuubi watched the lines turn red and rush off down the halls of Naruto's mind, it allowed itself a triumphant smirk on its vulpine features. Welcome back, kid. Temari had seen the Uchiha fight Gaara. He had done well until he ran out of chakra and began getting decimated by Gaara until his orange-wearing teammate came onto the scene. Then he ended up getting beaten down too. During his beating, however, he began to gain energy, taking Gaara's shots and walking right through them. He exploded with raw chakra, and Temari had never seen anything like that before. Chakra visible to the naked eye, so much that it seemed strange to the boy himself. As he began getting a handle on the situation, he collapsed, screaming and holding his head all the while. As he lay on the tree branch, a strange mark appeared on his head, forcing lines to branch out over his entire body, covering him from head to toe. Temari shook in place on her branch. They're all freaks, every last one. The lines suddenly turned red as a massive pressure filled the immediate area. It didn't feel evil, malicious, angry, or anything. It just felt like Naruto, just magnified 100 times. The lines faded away from the downed blonde. All attention turned to him as he groaned and stirred on his belly. He quickly snapped to his feet and looked around his own body, flexing his fists and shaking out his legs. The only noticeable change in his base appearance was the scar going down his eye, a battle scar that wasn't existent a moment ago. He had an angry sneer on his face before he shook his head pitifully. Kami, I suck. I'm as weak as a kitten like this. What happened to me? I'm confused. Sasuke looked up at Naruto. It was the same kid that had been there a second ago, and yet it wasn't. He looked like Naruto, but he didn't move like Naruto. He moved like he was coiled and waiting to strike, as if he expected an attack coming from anywhere. His eyes were the same bright blue like Naruto, but now they had more in them than just the infinite brightness they usually held. It was still there, but there was more that Sasuke couldn't quite see. He was as calm as they came. You wouldn't even know that he was preparing to get into a fight from looking at him, and he looked out at Gaara without fear, anger, interest, or anything, and he accentuated this by sighing and speaking his next words. All right, Gaara. I don't know what the hell is going on with me right now. I have an idea, but I need some damn answers. But to do that, I need to go back to Konoha. I need to go back and end this invasion, and you're in my way, so it's time to get you out of the way. Naruto's head was splitting. The rush of memories returning to him in that instant gave him the mother of all migraines, and the dueling memories of his time en route, and the memories that he assured himself were implanted, somehow weren't helping at all either. Root. After hearing the confidence in Naruto's voice ring out in the forest, Sasuke spoke up. Naruto, what happened to you? What's going on? Naruto looked down at Sasuke with one eye and back up at Gaara. You know, I'm not entirely sure myself. Right now I feel like crap, but compared to the way I've been feeling for the last 4 years, I feel amazing. It's hard to explain. He grunted. It's not important right now. I have to beat his ass, hustle back to Konoha and find someone, like Danzo or something, that can explain all of this to me. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to attack him and you aren't. Now commencing operation. Beat Gaara's ass. Sasuke had a myriad of questions running through his head at this point. What happened to the Dobe? Who is Danzo? What the hell does he mean I'm not fighting? Gaara heard his voice speaking to Sasuke the entire time and cackled to Naruto across the trees. You aren't strong enough, Uzumaki. Leave them behind and run. Nothing has changed. You still don't fight for yourself. Gaara flung more sand shuriken at Naruto, who scoffed and grabbed Sasuke by the back of his collar and ducked and weaved out of the way of the projectiles. After he had gotten through them all, he dropped Sasuke back on the branch and scoffed. Pathetic. I'm slow as dirt. Did my muscles atrophy or something? I became a ninja anyway, which means I should be conditioned like a genin. I should have kept my speed at least. Gaara looked at Naruto, looking himself over after dodging with Sasuke. This angered him. It was like Naruto was ignoring his existence, just like everybody else, just like everybody else. Don't ignore me. Gaara had mouths appearing all over his body as he took a deep breath and released it ahead. Wind release. Sandstorm devastation. Gaara released a massive blast of air in a sandstorm in Naruto and Sasuke's direction, tearing off branches and cutting into the bark of trees. As the wind died down, Gaara couldn't see Naruto or Sasuke, no sign of either. It's a shame. Gaara turned around to see Naruto standing behind him right before Naruto's fist lifted him off of the branch and sent him crashing to a lower level. Naruto crouched on the branch and watched Gaara try to stand. You had a defense that only the fastest could bypass and only the strongest could breach. And what do? You cast it away for raw power when things get a little tough. Raw power can only overwhelm skill and finesse and extreme qualities. Naruto pointed at Sasuke, who was over by Sakura, Pakun, and Gamakichi. You beat him in this form because he was already burned out when you transformed. He used Chidori twice here, once during your fight in the stadium, and I'm sure he tested it one time when he and Kakashi were late. If he had more shots, then you wouldn't have won. He smirked down at Gaara. I don't know what happened to me all of those years ago. But I'm not the kid that just had Cage Bunshin flying all over the place anymore. I could beat you like that, but that wouldn't be very fun. After all of this time, I can finally fight like I used to, if only a little bit. I'm still not fast enough to avoid taking hits, but I can almost assure you that however hard you hit me. A feral grin came onto Naruto's face. I'll hit you twice as hard. So let's see who can still stand up when this is all over. Naruto's hand moved unconsciously to his back before he pulled it down, clicking his teeth. Damn, that's right. I don't have a sword. Seriously, what happened to me? These phantom urges to fight like I was trained to are going to get me killed if I don't get it together. Gaara stood with a growl. You aren't stronger than me. You fight for the Uchiha. You fight for the pink-haired girl. Fighting for others makes you weak. Naruto scoffed. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. There are detailed stories of mere mortal men overcoming demons for others. The Yondaime Hokage overcame the Kyubi no Yoko for his village. Orochimaru fights for himself. You fight for yourself. And that's why you will both lose here today. Because you don't have a true purpose to fight. Naruto cracked his knuckles. But let me show you just how wrong you are. Don't blink. One flash tag later and Naruto's presence was gone from the area. Everyone looked around for any sign of the blonde boy who had changed from the orange loudmouth they had taken him for based on past experience. Chuckling rang out through the forest, but not from any particular area, as Naruto was projecting his voice. That little sandstorm from earlier wasn't a futon jutsu. This is a futon jutsu. Wind release, gale palm. A fierce gale came from the trees above, sending wind and weapons at Gaara from above. Gaara lifted his arms to block vital spots and allowed the kunai and shuriken to bury themselves into them. Gaara lowered his hands and shouted out loudly, "Is that the best you have, Uzumaki? Come out and fight me. Give me a real fight. Let me feel alive." Naruto's voice rang out again in mocking laughter. If you wanted to feel alive, then you shouldn't have caught those weapons. Even with all of that power, you're still just a baby genin, huh? Just listen. And tell me what you hear. Everyone silenced themselves in order to listen for Naruto's warning. Tamari's eyes widened, too late to help. A hissing noise coming from Gaara was being muffled by the sandy appendage he had caught the mishmash of ninja tools in. "Gaara, no!" Tamari's shout of warning did no good. It was too late for him to cast them out as a massive explosion took place in the trees, and the fireball that used to be Gaara fell to the forest floor. The others could only look on in amazement as the goofy boy in orange was systematically decimating the strongest person out of them all. Naruto's voice rang out again. "Damn it, I should have just killed you." Gaara was like a puddle of melting sand on the ground as Naruto spoke. "I guess my fake self has more influence over me than I thought. I should be down there killing you right now, but for old time's sake, I guess I'll hit you with an attack inspired by him." Suddenly, several Narutos rushed out of the foliage and kicked Gaara into the air, one after another. As Gaara was stuck hanging in the air, a wave of orange revealed itself from the leaves above. Countless Kage Bunshin from Naruto descended with their fists and feet cocked to strike. Naruto Uzumaki, Tuke Barrage. Naruto's Bunshin dropped an obscene amount of physical offense on Gaara's prone form, driving him back into the ground hard. Naruto and his clones littered the trees looking down at Gaara. Naruto sighed yet again. If I was at full strength, he'd be a puddle in a crater right now. Someone's going to answer for this. Gaara looked up at the masses of Naruto Bunshin looking down on him. Each of them had the same uninterested look on their faces, as if they were trying to ignore him. Cold blue eyes magnified by 1,000 staring down on him. There's no way. Gaara allowed the final shred of sanity and reasoning inside of him snap. There's no way I'm going to lose to a guy like that. The original Naruto's eyes widened as Gaara's chakra spiked. Oh crap, he can transform again. Naruto was blown back hard as Gaara was completely immersed in sand swelling to the sky. Naruto's Kage Bunshin were dispelled as Gaara's towering sands smashed them asunder. Gaara ended up sticking out of the head of Shukaku looking down on Naruto, who was covered in sand. "It's too late, Uzumaki. Time to die." Ugh. Like I said, power cleanly outclasses skill only in overwhelming quantities. Naruto sat, entirely encased in Gaara's Sabaku Kyu. "Well, this is great. I'm too weak to break it. Now what?" Naruto smirked as he remembered that he didn't stop learning things when he lost his memory. "Ero Sennin, you might have been useful after all." Naruto bit his thumb and made a few hand signs. Gaara put out his right hand. "Sabaku Sos, summoning jutsu." In a massive burst of smoke, Naruto found himself seated atop the head of Gamabunta, smirking out at Gaara. "You didn't think it would be that easy, did you?" Naruto looked down at Gamabunta. "Hey there, boss Toad. You want to help me out and take this jerk down with me? He's a little too big for me to handle alone at this time." Gamabunta directed his gaze up at Naruto. "Something feels different about this Geki. Like he isn't as frantic and spastic as he was the last time I saw him." Gamabunta huffed out smoke from his pipe. "Ichibi no Shukaku, no can-do kid. Why would I want to go out of my way to fight a guy like that?" Naruto deadpanned the giant toad a look. I thought summons were supposed to help their summoners fight in situations like this. Naruto pointed at Gaara Shukaku. Look at that thing. If you don't help me, then I'll end up a bloody smear on the bottom of its foot for sure. Gamabunta laughed. Tough. We haven't even had a drink yet. I can't accept you as my summoner until we share a drink together. Naruto glared down at him. You'd better be the one supplying then, because my genin ass can't afford enough liquor to get you even slightly buzzed. Gamakichi then appeared and landed on Naruto's head. Aw, help him out, Pops. I like this kid. Gamabunta looked at the smaller toad in surprise. Gamakichi, what on earth are you doing here? Gamakichi looked at his father sheepishly. I just wanted to come out and see the outside world, you know. He pointed over at Gaara Shukaku, and then that guy tried to bully me. Our boy here kept me alive and started kicking that guy's butt, but then he cheated and got all big. And now here we are. Gamabunta glared out at the sand spirit. All right then, Gaki. You helped out my son. I appreciate that. You're all right with me. You have my support in this fight, but we're still having that drink later, you hear? Naruto stood up and nodded, his face hardening as he looked out at Gaara. Gamakichi, you're going to want to get off of my head for this next part. Gamakichi got off of Naruto's head as Gamabunta drew his tanto and held it at the ready. Whenever you're ready, Boss Toad, give him hell. Gamabunta launched forward and dug his sword into Shukaku's arm. With one mighty heave, he lopped it off, dropping it uselessly onto the ground before he jumped back to his distance and stared at his opponent. Gamabunta huffed in exhaustion. That almost took everything I had, and all I took was his arm. Naruto smirked down at Gamabunta. Wow, and I thought I was out of shape. I've been out of full commission for 4 years. What's your excuse? Gamabunta eyed the boy. Watch it, brat, or I'll squash you. The smile disappeared from Naruto's face as he looked back out at their mutual foe. Kill me later. We still have a problem. Gaara looked at Naruto excitedly. Interesting. Interesting, Naruto Uzumaki. I like this. This is a fantastic battle. Gaara brought his hands into the ram seal. Feigning sleep technique. Shukaku's star-shaped pupils spun wildly and he yelled to the sky. I'm free! Naruto kept an impassive face. He just made this a lot more difficult, didn't he? Gamabunta nodded with the boy on his head, and why wouldn't he? All right, let's try something here. Shukaku inhaled deeply. Futon, Rinkuden, wind release, drilling air bullet. He launched a massive air ball at Gamabunta, who prepared his own attack. Water release, liquid bullet. Naruto flew through his own hand signs. Let's give you a boost, Boss Toad, wind release. Great breakthrough. Naruto let out a massive, crushing wind that sped up Gamabunta's water bullet, forcing it to obliterate Shukaku's attack on contact. It continued on to collide with the demon itself, knocking it off balance and sending it to the ground. Sasuke was watching the fight with envy. Naruto had seemingly hit some mental switch in his head, and now Gaara couldn't even touch him. What kind of power is this? This Naruto is completely different from the one I've been working with for so long. Temari was completely overwhelmed. She had left to find Kankuro after Gaara had fully transformed and returned. Thinking that Gaara had killed Naruto and moved along towards Konoha, she wanted to bypass him entirely and avoid his killing spree. When she returned, she was shocked to see that Naruto was not only still fighting, not only forcing Gaara into a full possession, he was winning. She and Kankuro had to check to make sure they weren't dreaming. This boy, he isn't normal. How can he keep pace with Gaara? Naruto looked down at Gamabunta. So how do we end this? Gamabunta was impressed by Naruto boosting his attack. He knew it would have been a stalemate otherwise. This really isn't the same kid from last week. Gamabunta remembered that Naruto had asked him a question. We need to wake up the host. The boy on his head. You need to wake him up. Naruto frowned and grunted. Killing him would be easier. Way easier. We can just pepper him with big attacks until Gaara's a big red blotch on his forehead. He's totally exposed. Gamabunta chuckled. That's ruthless Gaki. It's an idea that would give us more problems than answers, though I'm afraid. Killing the medium in the midst of a full possession could end up with the demon being freed. It already has a form to go with its soul, so it wouldn't need the host in that instance. The blonde nodded. Okay, so wake him up it is then. He furrowed his brow in thought. But all of my attacks that I could launch from here can kill him. I need you to get in close so that I can wake him. Gamabunta looked at his hands. These webbed hands of mine aren't much for grabbing a hold of things. How do you suggest I get him? Naruto scoffed. I said get close. I didn't say grab him. I can reach him myself. Don't you worry. Gamabunta prepared to charge, as Shukaku reached an upright position once more. Naruto closed his eyes to get in touch with his inner demon. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto appeared in the sewer of his mindscape in front of the Kyuubi's prison. Naruto looked around and shook his head. Kami, this place is a dump. I didn't leave this place looking like this. Demonic laughter rang out from behind the bars in front of him. No, you didn't, human. Whoever placed the seal on you messed with your mental functioning and reverted your mind into a dump, as you can plainly see. Naruto nodded. So will it get better, because this is seriously depressing. Wait, seal. There was a seal on me. Yes, kid, if your mind goes back to the way it was before 4 years ago, then your mindscape will return to its former state. The Kyuubi turned serious at this point. There was a seal placed on you after your disastrous mission to Otogakure. I can't tell you who did it because I was unconscious from using so much chakra to heal your wounds and keep you going until you reached the border. I woke up here. Again. Needless to say, I wasn't too happy. Naruto laughed slightly. So that's why you were so pissed off when I showed up here last time. You tried to freaking eat me, you know. Why didn't you say anything? Kyuubi huffed and sat down on its haunches, letting its snout touch the floor. First of all, would your other self who had been taught to mistrust me believe me in the first place? If I had tried to tell you about it, I would have been harmed by the seal, as would you. It was a memory seal. Whoever placed it on you placed many others on with you that coincided with one another. You forcibly broke one, the chakra restrictor, and allowed me to force a chain reaction with the rest of your mental seals to free your mind. Naruto smiled at the massive kitsune. Well, I guess I owe you one soon then. But right now, could you give me a shot of your chakra for old time's sake? I need to smack down your comrade Shukaku without killing his host. The ground in Naruto's mind rumbled as the Kyuubi jumped to its feet, tails waving behind it excitedly. Really? You need my help again after so long? All right then, kid. Why not? I just wish I could experience the fight through your eyes and in other senses like I used to. Naruto smirked as the red chakra engulfed his body. Well, after we survive this, I'll set up my mind the way it used to be so you can. It's the least I can do. I miss being so badass. Naruto slowly faded from his mindscape as the Kyuubi lay back down on the ground. I did too, kid, I did too. Naruto's eyes shot open as his body filled with the Kyuubi's chakra. Almost simultaneously, Gamabunta charged at Shukaku. As the two massive creatures got closer, they both shot off their projectile attacks again. Naruto judged the distance just as the smoke from the collision of attacks rose. This is close enough, I guess. Naruto crouched deeply and propelled himself high over Gamabunta's head, leaping over the explosion and posturing himself above Shukaku's head. Naruto hovered overhead for a second before forcing wind chakra out through his hands, accelerating his descent. This is going to be amazing. Naruto fell at high speed, aiming for Gaara, who was stuck sleeping on Shukaku's head. Wake up, you pasty bastard! Naruto delivered a double stomp right to the top of Gaara's head, driving him completely through the Shukaku figure, forcing it to collapse on itself as they crashed to the ground amid a deafening roar as the sand crashed around the trees. Gamabunta stood slack-jawed at Naruto's vicious, reckless attack on Shukaku. The kid jumped from the relative safety of his head, 30 feet higher than he already was, towards a crazed homicidal demon. The more amazing thing was that it actually worked. He hit Gaara with the force of his body weight focused into his feet from 30 feet above his head, making the impact more intense by using wind chakra to send him down faster. After the attack, he softened his landing considerably after he destroyed the Shukaku as he landed in sand that had been tenderized by his previous attack. Gamabunta was broken from his musing by his son. I like that kid, Pops. He's insane. Can I hang out with him more often? Gamabunta chuckled. If he allows it, Gamakichi. Jiraiya sure picked an interesting one this time. I'll be watching you, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto stood up and shook the sand off of his body, dragging Gaara out with him and dropping him on the ground, watching him look up at him in fear. Stay away from me. I don't want to die. Naruto slapped Gaara across the back of his head. Act like a shinobi, damn it. We deal in death for a living. Besides, I'm not going to kill you. You're a weapon like me. He dropped Gaara onto the grass and walked away slightly. You're a weapon that I broke already. And while you can be repaired, most of the time a repaired weapon is easier to break a second time around. He turned back to look at Gaara. His cold blue eyes turned back to their formerly bright nature. I'll beat you down every time you try to harm me or anyone in my village. Because only when you fight to protect and defend others can you be powerful and find the strength to push beyond your limits. Naruto looked up to the trees. Sasuke! The Uchiha in question landed by his side. Is Sakura-chan safe? Was I fast enough? Sasuke nodded. Yeah, Naruto. You saved her. Naruto looked back at Gaara just as his siblings landed and prepared for a fight. Naruto shook his head at the two Suna ninja. I just beat the guy that terrorized you since he was 6, and I still have enough chakra that I'm gonna sprint back to Konoha and finish up the battle there. You both already got your asses kicked by this guy in Shino, and he looks like he's ready to go another round. Do you really think you can beat us if you were stupid enough to attack us? Kankuro and Tamari bristled at Naruto's nonchalant threat as he shrugged. Fine, be that way. We'll just knock you out and drag you to the village, and by we I mean them. Naruto pointed behind them as two Kage Bunshin bashed them in the back of their heads with the blunt end of their kunai. Naruto looked back at Sasuke. All right, Tim. Go get Sakura-chan and Paikun and we'll get out of here. We still have a battle to fight. Sasuke went to gather up Sakura as Naruto took to tying up the Suna ninja and hoisting them up on his and his Bunshin's shoulders. As they set off through the trees, Naruto mentally berated himself. How could I let myself be caught? Damn it! If I had never been sealed, then I would have been able to warn Danzo that Orochimaru was planning an invasion and amassing forces. I hope things aren't as bad as they seemed at the stadium. Konoha, around the center of town. Jiraiya stood atop the head of his massive toad summon as he watched Konoha forces engaging the Suna and Oto forces. Despite the fact that they had driven the enemy out of the heart of the city, the enemy had been putting up a dogged fight. Suddenly Ibiki landed atop the toad's head. Jiraiya-sama. Jiraiya put up his telescope and turned to face him. Ibiki, report. Jiraiya-sama. Our forces were caught in several ambushes as they chased the enemy forces out of the village. They ended up getting caught in a crossfire by some of Otogakuri's ninja they had held back. Jiraiya groaned. They would win, but such an unnecessary loss of life was unsettling. Just as he was about to try and switch the topic, he saw Ibiki smile. But when they were closing in on our forces, they ended up getting sacked by a lone ninja of Konoha. Wearing bright orange if they saw correctly, he was moving too fast for some of them to catch. Jiraiya's eyes widened. There's only one kid I know that is colorblind enough to run around this place in orange. Ibiki nodded. At the same time, a Kage Bunshin of Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha arrived at the hospital with their female teammate. And on the other side of town, he delivered the children of the Kazekage to a makeshift POW site, in good condition too. Ibiki scratched under his bandana. I saw how good the kid could be during his fight with the Hyuga, but I never would have guessed that he was good enough to take down a squad like that. Ibiki, you shouldn't talk about me like I'm not there. They both whipped around to see Naruto tapping his foot impatiently, although I guess you didn't know I was here. Geez, if I was an assassin you'd both be dead. Jiraiya looked at Naruto oddly. He couldn't sense his usual restless aura, and he had snuck up on him. Gaki, what happened to your jacket? And what's with that scar on your face? Naruto had ditched his orange jumpsuit jacket and left himself in his black t-shirt. I tossed that bulky piece of crap so I could move faster to get here without much trouble. and I got this scar years ago. Someone put a bunch of seals on me that did a lot of stuff to me. Hiding that scar must have been one. Naruto saw Jiraiya flinch when he spoke about the seals. We can talk about that later. We will talk about that later. Databayo. Databayo. Ibiki gasped as he looked out over the buildings and saw Orochimaru being whisked away by the Sound Four. Naruto growled and crouched down like a track runner, preparing to take off in hot pursuit until Jiraiya grabbed his collar. You're not fresh, kid. You can't take Orochimaru and his entire force of bodyguards alone. Naruto looked at him blankly. I'm not alone. You should be as strong as he is, right? And Ibiki can help me beat his entourage and help you. If he's running away, then that means he knows he lost today and he might be hurt. We can turn his retreat into a rout and finish this here. Jiraiya was about to respond just as a cloaked Ambu landed on the toad. Bowing to Jiraiya. Jiraiya-sama, it's about Sandame-sama. Jiraiya grinned widely. So Sarutobi-sensei sent the old snake back to his hole, did he? The Ambu flinched under his mask. Okage-sama was killed in combat against Orochimaru. 3 other ninjas stood in stunned silence atop the toad, as the sounds of battle still rang out into the air. Naruto looked to Jiraiya, who looked down at him. That's enough death for one day, kid. It's time to regroup and mourn. Naruto said nothing and followed Jiraiya back to the Chunin exam stadium. He could get his answers later, he had nothing but time. Now belonged to the entire village as a whole. Naruto was far more ornery than usual as he partook in the usual D-rank missions that genin teams like Team 7 got. While part of him knew that this was truly necessary at this point in time, seeing as how the village was getting over the damage incurred during the invasion of Oto and Suna, the part of him that was locked away at the age of 8 that was used to missions that could end with him being killed, and the brash childish part of him that resurfaced after his memory had been sealed, and longed for missions with potential for action like that. With the knowledge of his sealing, Naruto was able to sort out what memories were fake and which were his own. It helped that the Genjutsu seal that was placed on him to change his appearance was broken, revealing the numerous battle scars that littered his body from his time en route. It really helped having a visible association to certain memories. His first night in his apartment after the invasion was for the most part spent in front of a mirror repeating the line, "Oh, I remember getting that one," over and over throughout the evening. Over the course of the next 2 weeks he had to adjust to just being a normal genin with a true elite's mindset. Tora was lucky that she hadn't tried to run away since the invasion, or Naruto might have killed her retrieving her. Accidentally, of course. His rapport with his team, whatever he might have had, shifted tumultuously after the Chunin exams. Naruto's thoughts on Sakura had changed to a clearer line of thought. The girl thought he was useless for the most part, and while compared to how he was supposed to be, she was right. It stood to reason that even grossly handicapped as he had still been vastly superior to her when it came to the ninja arts. While he may have been a goofy annoyance while he had been a genin, he had still been nothing but pleasant to the girl, and had given his all at every corner. Her habit of fawning over the Uchiha and downplaying anything Naruto accomplished grated on his nerves at this point. Naruto ruthlessly crushed his mental faculties that she was a good person, and that he had romantic interest in her because when it came to him, she was a bitch. She was his teammate. That didn't really mean they had to be close. He just had to tolerate her and work with her to accomplish his mission. He didn't see anything pleasant about trying to associate with her outside of missions. Sasuke had taken to the habit of staring at him and trying to verbally provoke him when he offered any input into their missions. Sasuke had been feeling inadequate after seeing how Naruto not only saved him from Gaara, he had dispatched Gaara handily without too much effort, captured the Kazekage's children swiftly thereafter and headed back to Konoha, and routed an Oto ambush against a Konoha squadron. This leads to now. He'd been trying to goad Naruto into a fight so that he could really test his own capacities against the blonde. But not only was there no time for sparring as they didn't have team training while rebuilding the village, Naruto left so quickly after the day's work was done that Sasuke couldn't follow him, and he was never able to trail the boy for too long before losing him. Kakashi had noticed quite a few changes in his blonde student since he had let him go during the invasion. While the scar over his eye was the most glaring one, his attitude was another. He didn't try to keep his team's spirits up with indomitable brightness. He still cracked jokes, and his overall timing was vastly superior now, Kakashi had to admit, but they were bright flashes in an otherwise dreary day of rooting through Konoha's rubble. Naruto no longer took to calling him Kakashi-sensei. When he reprimanded Naruto on this habit, he had seemingly picked up Naruto responded by saying that he hadn't taught Naruto anything other than tree climbing, and he technically learned how to do that years ago, he just forgot. Kakashi noted the bitter tone in Naruto's voice when he said, forgot but didn't press too much. He figured that Naruto was still bitter from being cast aside during the Chunin exams. The differences in Naruto's gait, actions on missions, and how he now treated his teammates showed him that there was a vast change in Naruto that he couldn't pinpoint exactly. He watched Naruto drop another stack of wood by the building that his team was working on at the moment, and walk off again to grab more. There was something he was missing about this. Team 7 had been dismissed for the day and Naruto had taken to wandering around Konoha. He had taken to treating the villagers with the same apathy and looks of annoyance that they gave him. He didn't care about them. He was in a bad enough mood as it was. He had been unable to find Danzo since the invasion ended. In his haste to track his trainer down and report back to him, as he technically never failed or completed his mission, he had found that the older base for Root had been abandoned. Cursing the old cripple out in his head, he realized just how difficult it truly was to find Danzo when he didn't already know where he would be. You'd think there would only be so many places that you could hide a group like Root in this village. Naruto understood things from both sides of the fence. He understood how Sarutobi disliked a secret branch of the military that he didn't directly control running rampant under his nose. It wasn't good for a supposed military dictatorship, as Konoha was supposed to be, to have something like that among them. It was unnerving to say the very least. But Naruto knew that if he truly knew that honestly, Danzo only had around 20-25 well-trained ninja, including himself. Compared to Konoha's forces, it was simply a drop in the bucket. And while Konoha's true forces had a never-ending supply of recruits and potential, only certain types ever had a chance en route and they weren't readily replaceable. Root took Konoha's dirty missions, the jobs that somebody had to do. The kind of stuff that stepped on people's toes on the large scale of things, but if they never took place, then it would expose Konoha's back to the lions. The killings that Konoha couldn't be caught having any hand in, the alliances that could substantially benefit Konoha, but that had less than moral bases. There was a reason that the seemingly most powerful village in the nations didn't have too many problems regularly compared to the others. Sarutobi directly chose not to accept certain missions for the sake that they could be seen as an aggressive move on Konoha's part. Danzo took these missions for Root. Root had to be better than the majority of other ninja, simply for the sheer difficulty that their missions entailed. There were no D-rank missions, hell, there weren't even any C-ranked missions. Everything you did in Root was B-rank and up. If you weren't ready, then you trained and drilled until you were. No other way about it. If you couldn't cut it after all of the things you were put through until that point, then you died, namelessly, facelessly, and miles away from home. He needed to find Danzo. He knew that the second he actually put on Konoha's Hite 8, he was basically no longer Root's shinobi. But he still had the mindset of completing his mission. He also wanted to find out exactly what the hell happened to him. If anyone knew, Danzo did. His thoughts then drifted to the mission he had been tasked with as he clenched his fists, his emotional nature spilling out. If only he had gotten back sooner. If only he hadn't stuck around for so long. If only somebody didn't get a wild hair in their ass and sabotage Otogakura's information department with explosives. If only all of those things hadn't happened, then he would have been able to return and send word on Oto's plans. He had found everything. He found that it was being run by Orochimaru. He found that they had a then-rookie Konoha Genin, Kabuto Yakushi, as his lead spy. He found that Orochimaru had finished his immortality jutsu. He'd even had the misfortune of seeing it being performed. He couldn't eat for the rest of the week afterwards. He even knew Orochimaru's main ambition for coming, and when he saw the markings on Sasuke during the fight with Gaara, he mentally kicked a pothole into his ass. Naruto's eyes panned around the village as he walked, all of the people taking part in the restoration of their homes. If he had broken the seal on himself even a day sooner, how much loss of life could have been diverted? How many lives need not have been lost? Could the Sandame have been able to take the proper precautions to acutely prepare for Orochimaru accordingly? He looked up at the Hokage monument as his thoughts drifted to the third face from the left. He had gotten much closer to the old man after he had been sealed. His mind had almost reverted back to its 4-year-old state, and he reached out to the only person he really knew. Even trying to bury his emotions, he still felt a faint sting at his eyes that he had to push back. He had to put his thoughts on the back burner for now, as he saw Jiraiya leaning against a fence looking at him. Naruto strode up to his side and spoke coolly. So what would he need from a lowly little genin like me, Ero-sennin? Jiraiya pushed himself off of the wall. I want you to come with me to find someone. Naruto raised his eyebrow. Aren't you the Hokage now? Jiraiya let out a short laugh. Those old goats wanted me to take up the spot, but I have too much on my plate to just do so like that. Naruto headed past him towards his apartment. Then I'm not going. I'm not some escort or bodyguard, I'm a shinobi. If this isn't an order from my higher-ups, then I'm not volunteering for this. I can spend my time better by helping to rebuild, getting back to my old level of skill, and finding out who put those goddamn seals on me. Jiraiya caught up with him quickly and placed a hand on his shoulder. Well, the other Genin can help rebuild. And I was going to teach you a jutsu that makes Chidori look like child's play. And those seals? I might know something about that. Naruto looked at him. Okay, you've got me on the rebuilding. And did you hear what I said? I need to get back to my old skill level. I don't need a jutsu. I have enough of those, I just can't use them right now. I need to get back to my old speed and strength first and foremost. I felt weak like an infant and moved like a snail during the invasion. Naruto's eyes shone as he absorbed the last of what Jiraiya said. And you're damn right you know something about my seals. You're telling me whether I choose to go or not. You're just lucky that it would probably be easier to just go with you. That, and I'm bored around here. Jiraiya grinned at him. Well, let's go and get you packed. We'll leave immediately. Naruto pulled out 4 scrolls. I already have everything here. I always keep supplies for a long mission on me at all times. You never know when you'll get called away. He placed them back into the pockets of his jacket. This big, bright piece of crap is good for something, I suppose. Jiraiya laughed loudly. If you hate it, then why wear it? Naruto's eye twitched. When I went home after the battle to look for clothes, this was the closest thing to shinobi gear I had in my closet. What the hell did they do to me? I wouldn't be caught dead in this. How did I live for as long as I did wearing this eyesore? Jiraiya laughed again, getting his chuckles out of seeing the boy tear himself down. Jiraiya reached into his pocket and placed some bills in Naruto's hand. I'll tell you what, Geiki. I'll give you 2 hours to go and get yourself outfitted. Meet me at the main gate then and we'll take off. Naruto let a smile cross his face as he turned to head back towards the market district. He waved back at Jiraiya and pocketed the cash. Naruto wandered through the market district looking around. While the Naruto that had become a genin would simply enter a shop and hope he didn't get ripped off. This Naruto was sick of being broke all of the time and was running through his head all of the shinobi shops that had done it to him. That place did it. That place did it. That place won't even let me in to do it. Naruto had gotten his tools from old scavenging habits. It amazed him how many tools were wasted by ninja just during training, even back when he was little. He cultivated his pack rat habit back when he was first being trained by Danzo, storing all of the usable things he could find for himself as a sort of surplus, and handing the broken, unusable stuff to Root's armory to be melted down and remade. Apparently he continued that little habit when he had been sealed as well, because he still had tons of weapons sitting inside one of his closets in the apartment. Naruto stopped at a rather plain-looking shop, and having no memory of ever being in there, he opted to give it a shot. Tenten yawned as she sat at the counter of the weapons shop her family owned. She wasn't having a good overall month. She had gotten destroyed in the preliminary rounds of the Chunin exam by that Suna Kunoichi Tamari and was forced out of contention. She had decided to help her teammate Neji train for the final exam for the month in between tests, and had even gone to the competition to watch him mop up the competition. Things don't always work out like that, huh? She then had to watch him be utterly beaten by the unassuming blonde kid that was on the same team as the Shiha, the dead last of the class under hers. He cut down his juken and not only got up from Neji's best techniques and shrugged them off, he reopened his tenketsu after they had been sealed off. He even had enough strength afterwards to run around the stadium in celebration after he won. Then she ended up being put under a genjutsu that engulfed the stadium and missed the invasion of Oto and Suna. After the invasion was over, she spent more time at her family's shop, seeing as her sensei was spending a lot of time at the hospital with her green-clad teammate Rock Lee due to his grievous injuries. But it wasn't busy, seeing as how there weren't a lot of ninja that needed to stock up for missions, as they were helping with the reconstruction, so here she sat, bored. Yep, not a good month overall, one could say. The bell to the store rang, signifying a potential customer. Hello, welcome to. As Tenten's eyes drifted to the door, she saw the very same blonde kid that had beaten her teammate looking around her shop. Hey! Naruto turned to face her curiously. Realization spread over his face. Oh, hi there, Tenten, right? As she looked at his inquisitive face, she noted the scar sitting over his right eye. Huh? That's new. She pointed out at him accusingly. You're the kid that beat Neji. The tone of her voice stated it like he had committed some kind of crime. Naruto tilted his eyebrow. My name is Naruto, and don't look so shocked. Was I supposed to let him win or something? Tenten was taken aback by his calm answer. She was conditioned from seeing him throughout the exams to expect a loud, hot-headed response. It's not that, it's just that you really weren't expected to win then. Damn idiot persona. It just had to wreck his standing in the eyes of the many. Oh well, he liked to be surprising anyway. Naruto sighed, and that is why you have to learn to expect the worst in most cases, because then you can only be pleasantly surprised. Naruto remembered Danzo or other Elder Root operatives saying that to him a lot back in the day, then they would usually hit him or something. Stupid emotional conditioning. Tenten noticed the scar over his eye and found herself curious. How did you get that scar? Did you get it during the invasion? Naruto waved off her question. It's a long story that I'm not even sure of and that you wouldn't believe if I told you. Don't worry about it. Do you sell shinobi clothes here? She nodded and pointed over in the correct direction. Naruto thanked her and went on over. Tenten watched silently as he walked over to the clothing section of her store and rifled through the selection. Apparently he was getting rid of that sense-offending jumpsuit on his back. He nodded as he pulled out a set of shirts and a few pairs of pants. He went into a changing room and came out a moment later in a dark blue muscle shirt and dark blue loose pants tied at the ankles with wraps. He set the extras on the counter and went back into the accessories section and grabbed some black bracers that wrapped around his forearm entirely. As he walked back to the counter, he stopped as he came across the swords. He stared long and hard for a moment until he pulled down a ninjato and unsheathed it. Looking it over and testing the balance before shrugging and walking back to the counter with a grin. He set the sword down and looked up. Do you have something to secure this on my back? Tenten nodded and reached down behind the counter to grab a strap for him to use. So how much is all of this? He seemingly gave her a appraising look as she tallied it up. Ten looked over what he bought and looked at him. That will all come to 68,500 ryo. Tenten watched him switch moods apparently, as he cringed jokingly and pulled out his wallet and money he had in his pocket. He brightened up after hearing the price of his new equipment. Naruto chuckled as he gave her the necessary funds. This'll clean me out, but it's necessary. He strapped on the sword and placed the bracers on his forearms. Tenten watched him finish outfitting himself and huffed. Do you even know how to use that sword on your back? Naruto shifted the ninjato into a comfortable position on his back. I'm an old hand at it. It's time for me to get back into practice with Kenjutsu. I was no slouch, I should say. I might be rusty if anything. Naruto quickly drew his sword for a few test slashes and shifted through a few regulation ambu stances before resheathing it. I think I'll be fine. Tenten's eyes gleamed for a second. You wouldn't happen to be interested in a spar, would you? Naruto smiled. Yeah, sure, why not? I don't have anyone to practice with anyway. I have to leave right now, though. I might look you up when I get back. Tenten smiled at him as he moved towards the door. I think I'd like that, Naruto. Naruto stopped at the door and turned around. I left the jumpsuit in the back. Feel free to burn it at your leisure. Like on your break or something. I still have a closet full of them to get rid of. Bye 1010. 10 waved goodbye as he left the store. She furrowed her brow in thought. How can a guy change like that in 2 weeks? Jiraiya noticed a familiar mop of blonde hair heading towards the main gate. As he got closer, he whistled at Naruto's appearance. Looking dapper, kid. Naruto looked up at him and grinned. It's easier to get girls if you don't blind them when they look at you. Jiraiya patted him on the back as they began walking through the gate. Well said, Geiki. As they walked on, Naruto eventually sighed and looked up at Jiraiya through half-lidded eyes. All right. We're far enough from Konoha that if I don't like what you have to say, I can kill you and no one can stop me. Tell me what you know about my seal. Jiraiya tried to be funny. Well, the Shuki Fujin is meant to hold back the Kyuubi. Naruto gripped his sword as he glared at him. Don't be an ass about this, I'm serious. What? Happened? To me? Jiraiya sighed. Okay, but if I tell you this, then you have to wait until I'm through explaining before you try to gut me, deal? Naruto kept up his glare but nodded. Jiraiya began. All right, you know your little trip to Tano Kuni? I'm the one that found you. I was there too, investigating rumors on Otogakura. When I left, I decided to torch their files. Stuff on Orochimaru's bloodline research, jutsu development, things like that. Naruto's eyes widened. He unsheathed his sword and took a swing at Jiraiya in anger, forcing the man to jump back. Hey, brat! I said, wait until I was done. Naruto pointed at him angrily. You dumb old bastard! You were the one that turned the heat on to me! Don't you know the first thing about infiltration? Never let the enemy know you were there. Jiraiya rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Hey, in my defense, I didn't know you were there. Naruto growled menacingly. That was the whole point. Jiraiya got back on track as Naruto sheathed his sword anyway. When I got you back, me and Sarutobi-sensei found that you were a part of a group of ninja led by a man high up in Konoha's politics. Naruto nodded. Yeah, Root, led by Danzo. Jiraiya pulled a double take to look at Naruto. You're admitting it exists. Wait, you're talking about it. Naruto sighed. Yes, Ero Sennin. I swear, I kept telling Danzo it was the second worst kept secret, almost as bad as me being the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. The fact that Sarutobi and you both knew about it proved that. And Danzo never put any seals on me. I was too much of a high-profile figure to make into a mindless drone. I mean, at first he tried, but he quit after a while. Jiraiya looked at him oddly. Wait, so you always had your sense of self? You weren't a mindless drone? He just trained you? Naruto looked up at the man. Yeah. And anyway, I couldn't tell you anything currently relevant about Root, even if I wanted to anyway, seeing as how I haven't been there in 4 years. The old cripple probably cut his losses and let me go. It's all he could have done. Trying to get me back and break the seal might have been too risky. Jiraiya looked down. We never had to seal him. He's right. As long as we kept a tight watch on him, he couldn't have gone back to Danzo. Jiraiya gulped. So about the sealing. Listen, Naruto, when me and Sarutobi-sensei sealed you, we thought you. Naruto's blue eyes snapped up at Jiraiya's face. You and Sarutobi-sensei? You and the old man were the ones that sealed me? Naruto didn't wait for a response. You asshole! You could have waited for me to wake up and explain what was going on to both of you. Instead, you left me with the mindset of a 4-year-old? I was mentally behind everybody else by 4 years. Jiraiya already knew that they had messed up back when they first sealed him. But it still sucked to have it thrown back at him. We didn't know what you would do when you woke up. We didn't know how you would react. We were just running damage control as quickly as we could. Naruto shook his head angrily. There was no damage control to run. All this time! I'm a shadow of my former self. My chakra control is shit. I have a fraction of the speed I used to have. Why? I still trained hard even after I was sealed. I should have kept that speed. Jiraiya rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I kind of put a gravity seal on you too. Sorry. I knew it. I knew I couldn't have been that slow naturally. Kami, I felt like I was wading in jelly. Naruto undid his hide to reveal his forehead. Take the seal off, damn it. Jiraiya made a few hand seals and placed his hand on Naruto's head. Fuin Kai, a glyph of a seal appeared and faded from Naruto's head. He tested his body's functions with some short motions. Okay, I feel better now. Jiraiya felt the need to keep explaining. Naruto just kept walking. I don't want to hear any more right now. I don't think I can take much more of this story before I feel the need to hurt you. You guys almost killed my career, you know that? Come on. Let's get to a town. Jiraiya and Naruto had gotten a hotel for the night in a town not far off. Upon arriving, Jiraiya had gone off gallivanting after some woman who showed a little interest in him. This suited Naruto just fine, as he didn't really want to be around Jiraiya at the moment anyway. Naruto took himself up to their room and laid down on one of the beds. He had a whole new set of things to think about. Was Hiruzen close to him only because he had gotten out from under his watch once, or was it truly legitimate? When he showed up at the ceremony for Konoha's fallen ninja, the day after the invasion, he had gone up to the Sandame's memorial, and he didn't know what to feel. He shed not one tear. His head was jumbled enough at the time. He was still sorting through his mind to figure out what was factual and what was fabrication. He shook his head free of that thought, putting his training under Danzo into use. He was a ninja, and while it was seemingly a simple mission, it was still a mission, and he needed a clear mind to go through it successfully. Naruto felt a pair of powerful presences coming closer to his door. They were hiding their chakra levels, but it was noticeable that they were considerably strong. Now the side of him that had been out and about for the last 4 years wanted to confront them, see what they wanted, and, if necessary, kick their asses. Unfortunately for that line of thought, rational Naruto was in control at the moment. He darted out of bed and leapt out of the window to find Jiraiya. Fighting two opponents that were potentially overwhelming in strength for no reason didn't really appeal to him, after just starting to get himself back into fighting condition. He knew they wanted him for some kind of unpleasantness, because in Naruto's life experiences, for the most part, new meetings equaled lots of pain and trouble. Naruto dashed along the rooftops until he reached the outskirts of town. Naruto bit his thumb and summoned a toad. Not even giving it time to speak, Naruto belted out an order. Go find Jiraiya? Tell him to find me as fast as he freaking can, or I'm screwed, okay? The toad nodded and ran back into town to find Jiraiya. Naruto sighed and turned around slowly. I know you're there. Come out already. Save us all some time here. 2 figures in black cloaks with red clouds appeared, both donning straw hats. Naruto sighed at the sight of the familiar red eyes signifying Sharingan. Of course it would be a guy like Itachi Uchiha after me. The other figure chuckled and removed his hat to reveal a blue-haired, blue-skinned man. It looks like you're still famous in that village of yours, Itai. Naruto smacked his forehead. And Kisame Hoshigaki. What a fantastic day. The hits just keep on coming. He set himself into a ready stance. Who else do we have coming? You guys happen to have another S-ranked cameo coming from the woodwork? Kisame scoffed at the sight of Naruto's small frame, who knew the Kyuubi Jinchuriki would be such a runt. Itachi, should I cut off one of his legs to make sure he can't run away again? Itachi stepped forward, red eyes spinning. Please come with us, Naruto-kun. Naruto sighed and brought his hands together. Kai! Come on now, I'm a kid, but don't insult me like that. I'm not that easy to yoke into oppression, you know. Kisame reached for the sword on his back. Itachi, this kid is mouthy. Let me handle him. Seimata can just taste his chakra from here. Itachi stared at Naruto, unblinking. Very well. Don't go overboard and kill him. Leader-sama needs the Jinchuriki alive. Naruto narrowed his eyes. 2 powerful guys like this want me alive. They won't fight to kill, they can't. But I don't have that kind of restriction here, and all I have to do is wait for Iro-Sennin to show up. Even if the toad I sent is slow or can't find him, once the fight starts, it shouldn't take him too long to get here. Naruto drew his ninjato and in the blink of an eye was at Kisame's throat, who had brought Seimata down to parry his blade. You're pretty fast, Gaki. Naruto pushed with his sword. I used to be faster. He felt Kisame pushing him back and grunted. Used to be stronger too. Kisame brought down his massive weapon on Naruto's shoulder and pulled back, slicing deeply into his shoulder before kicking the boy off. Naruto picked himself up off the ground. I seriously need to whip my ass back into shape. Fucking seal. This ain't gonna cut it. Kisame grinned maniacally as he rushed to Naruto and swung at him with his sword. Naruto ducked low and swiped at Kisame's feet. In response, Kisame uncorked a kick at the ducking Naruto's head. Naruto saw it coming and rolled out of the way. Man, I'm glad Ero Sennin had the common sense to at least take the stupid gravity seal off of me. I'd be dead meat otherwise. Naruto sheathed his sword back into the scabbard on his back, going blade to blade with one of the 7 swordsmen of the mist. Label me the idiot of the day. Itachi walked a few steps up. You're better than our intel anticipated, Naruto-kun. It was said that you were a dead last genin level shinobi. You've shown much surprising skill. Naruto huffed as he ignored the dripping wound spanning his shoulder. Yeah, well, there's no such thing as perfect intel. Indeed. Itachi removed his own hat to look at Naruto. This battle is unnecessary, Naruto-kun. Just come with us. You cannot defeat us both at your current level. Naruto glared at the rogue Uchiha and the shark-like Kisame. They're right. I couldn't beat these two like this if they were here to kill me. And I don't even have to win, all I have to do is last long enough for some help. Naruto smiled as he felt his wound begin to pulse with a familiar sensation. Apparently breaking the seal inspired the Kyuubi to stay awake more often again. Good. Now if only he had found the time to set up his old arrangements with the powerful Kitsune, then he could just have Kyuubi help him rampage on their asses and be done with it. There was time to think about that later. He had a tall order ahead of him here. Kisame and Itachi covered each other's weaknesses extremely well. What Kisame lacked in long-range ninjutsu, potent genjutsu, and tactical finesse and patience, Itachi more than made up for. Vice versa for Itachi and his close-range skills. Naruto didn't think he could win in close with Itachi anyway. That damnable Sharingan would give away his every move. Unless. Itachi walked ahead and called Kisame back. Kisame, I would like to test Naruto-kun for a bit. Stay back for a moment. Naruto would have grinned from ear to ear if it wouldn't have looked so suspicious. Itachi and Kisame both think he's weak. Itachi will probably let the genin in close to humor him. That's where he would get his chance. He needed to abandon all logical reason and just flow. The only way to bypass the Sharingan was to simply move faster than the body could adjust to, as if that would work on someone like Itachi. However, if Itachi could anticipate his movements, then what would happen if even Naruto didn't know what he would do next? It would be a pain to try, fighting his own muscle memory and his own instincts just to attempt a new strategy on the fly. Sounds like something his jumpsuit-wearing self would try. But then again, why the fuck not? Even an idiot can come up with some masterful gems of ideas every once in a while, right? Naruto ran in and ducked, looking to jump when in range of Itachi, but as he crouched, spontaneous inspiration came to him. Instead of jumping high as he had crouched to do, he tumbled forward and rolled through. This random act got him inside of Itachi's guard. Now what? As he saw Itachi move his arms to react to any action he could take from this point in a split second, Naruto once again listened to the most random thing he could think of. He tilted his head up and spit directly in Itachi Uchiha's face. Now at this time, if he wasn't. 1. Already in a fight that he knew wasn't going to be pleasant if it dragged out. And that's if he actually believed he had a snowball's chance in hell of actually winning said fight in the first place. 2. Flying by the seat of his pants too fast to take into account what he was actually doing. After all, if he wasn't a bloody mess on the ground, yet that had to count for something, right? And 3. Primarily trained to not show any emotion or feeling in combat against any enemy, even if pressed with insurmountable odds. And Itachi Uchiha was damn insurmountable for a handicapped former root operative 4 years out of the game. If it weren't for all of that, then he might have had the logical inclination to shit his pants when he saw that loogie make contact right on Itachi's left brow. And it worked too, because from the look on Itachi's face he damn sure never saw that as a viable option against him in the middle of a fight. Itachi froze in place, giving his diminutive adversary the opportunity to launch a vicious jumping snap kick to the side of his head, sending him flying back to his partner. The combination of seeing a 12-year-old kid spit into Itachi fucking Uchiha's face, and then seeing said kid dropkick Itachi Uchiha back 15 yards left Kisame's jaw quite slack. Kisame pointed dumbly at Itachi as he watched him rise to his feet. You've got a little something right there. Kisame felt a shiver go down his spine as Itachi sent his Sharingan glare on his as he wiped his dripping brow. You got it. The adrenaline from Naruto's little improv session wore off as he got distance and waited for Itachi's response. Naruto attempted a little denial therapy. Maybe he isn't as pissed as I thought. He's a former Ambu. Those guys get bodily fluids on them all the time. A little spit didn't even faze that guy. Itachi turning a downright murderous look at him, spinning Sharingan enhanced of course. Perished the thought that he was getting out of this alive without missing some important body parts. Being the highly trained professional he had been raised to be in his formative years, Naruto prayed to the skies above for even the slightest diversion. Anything that could tear Itachi's attention away from him for even a moment would be a gift from Kami herself, Itachi Uchiha. Naruto turned to find Sasuke standing shortly away, eyes affixed on his older brother. You've told me to live my life with hatred in order to get strong enough to kill you. Well, that day has come. If he wasn't such a highly trained warrior and if he wasn't in the middle of a serious, high-tension situation, Naruto could have broken down and cried in sweet, sweet relief. Those two reasons combined were the only reasons he didn't. Naruto knew there was no I in team. But sorry, Sasuke. Someone had to take one for the team today. And on this day, Naruto was more than willing to spell team with an... And that's it for the video. Until next time. Later.